We'll now call the meeting to order, and the time is 5 p.m. We'll now proceed with item number 2, approval of the agenda, and that the agenda for the Committee of Adjustment meeting of Wednesday, September 6, 2023, be approved as presented.
So
Do I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda as presented?
moved.
All right, Craig.
Second.
And Daniel. All in favor? Motion carried. Are there any declarations of interest? None? Okay. Item 4.1 is a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting held on June 27th, 2023. I have a recommendation that the Committee of Adjustment minutes dated June 27th, 2023 be accepted as presented. Do I have a mover and a seconder for this motion? Jim, Ruby? Is there any discussion on the minutes? Anyone? None? Then I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Item 5.1 is a recommendation that the Committee of Adjustment approve the following easements. For the purpose of a force main on parts 1, 2, 3, and 7 on Plan 15R 12222 to service the development of Plan 19 Part Lot East RP 15R 10121, Part 6 RP 15R12222, parts 19 to 27. And number 2, for the purpose of a water main on parts 9 and 10 on Plan 15R1222 to service the development on Plan 19, Part Lot East RP 15R10121, Part 6 RP 15R12222, parts 19 to 27. And for the purpose of a forced main on parts 1, 2, 3, 7, 24, 25, and 26 on Plan 15R12222 to service the development on Plan 19, Part Lot East RP 15R10 25-7, parts 8, 9, and 10. And for the purpose of a water main on parts 1, 2, 3, and 4 on Plan 15R 12-33-5 for the Town of Prescott's water distribution infrastructure. Do I have a mover and a seconder for discussion purposes? Okay. Seconder, Daniel?
Yeah, and I have a discussion I'd like to.
Oh, discussion, I'm sorry. Okay, yes.
For all of this, the paperwork we get on the proposal is very difficult to figure out online. And so when I'm looking at, in particular, these types of things, I cannot in my mind situate
Right.
where they are.
So Daniel, Matthew is going to speak to the report.
Okay.
And perhaps that might be some clarification there.
Right.
Matthew Armstrong, CAO Treasurer, will speak to the report. Mr. Armstrong.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So what I'll do is I'll put it up on the screen so everyone can see, and hopefully that'll make it a little bit easier to understand. So what we're talking about here is the hotel, what we're going to refer to as the hotel site. Just to the east of it is where the new Dollarama is, and to the west is where the McDonald's is. So the main hotel site will sit in the middle of this lot here. In the center. And then when we're talking about the force mains, water mains, things like that, then so for the force main, it will run for McDonald's as well as the hotel site. It already is in the ground, runs up here, runs across here, and then down to over to Mackenzie. For the water main, the hotel, it just runs straight across here. And then the town's infrastructure needs to be relocated and will run across the base of the lot and then up the west-hand side. And so when you take a look at it, if you're kind of looking at that, McDonald's is situated here, Dollarama is situated over here, and here is the main hotel site in the middle.
Excuse me, could you not put it on the screen so that I can see it?
Unfortunately,
Can you see it on the screen over here?
Sorry, we can't.
no, because only I can, are you here to speak to the hotel development?
No, we're here because we're beyond where you're planning to put all this. Yeah,
Okay, so you are here to speak to the hotel development?
we got a letter in the mail.
Okay, so maybe if you're able to just turn around your chairs, that would be easier.
You can move chairs along the side here.
Thank you, Chair. Matthew, when you back to the explanation, could you indicate who the easements for the property is and who the easement is in favor of in each case?
Really? Yep.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
Oh.
We got a chair here.
So I'm just going to kind of go back to just the explanation I was providing there. So right here is where the new Dollarama is located. Right here is where the new hotel will be situated, and here, right here is McDonald's. So when we take a look at each of these, so just to kind of clarify where we are, this right here is McDonald's. This right here is the new Dollarama, and this is where the new hotel will sit. The hotel's force main will run along Prescott Center Drive and in a trench that's already in place to connect to Mackenzie. So there's really no change. It's already in the ground. It was put in the ground while the Dollarama was being established. And so it's just a force main to run the sanitary that then bumps it up to Mackenzie. And that's for the benefit of the hotel. The McDonald's already has a force main that runs in the exact same trench and has already been provided that easement. The next one we have is for the water main. And so there's a water main connection right here on the Dollarama property. And the hotel will run their water connection just across the parking lot. It's already in place. And so that they can connect to that water main as well for their water. And that's for the benefit of the hotel. We go to here, this is the McDonald's force main. It was already relocated. And so it runs up along here, Prescott Center Drive, and then connects to Mackenzie. And it's in the exact same trench that the hotel is already in. And then finally, for the town's infrastructure, our main water main that services this entire area many years ago was put in the incorrect spot. And so to allow for this development and to put it in the correct spot, we're just moving it to the south to run along the southern portion of the property and then up here to service McDonald's. So our main water main comes in across here, right beside McDonald's, connects right at this corner. And then we want to make sure that it runs across the southern portion of the property up to here and then continues servicing Canadian Tire, Independent, and all of those.
Where does it run now?
Right now, it's kind of running right through the middle of the property, which makes it problematic for the hotel. So, which is one of the reasons why we have to move it. And it was not in the correct easement that was established years ago. So, so what we're trying to do is kind of move everyone's water main connections and sewer force main connections to where they're supposed to be, where they are today and will be once we finish our water main relocation. And then they have that ability to have them in the ground in perpetuity. So more than happy to answer any questions there might be.
Is there any discussion on this item?
So who's, like, it was my understanding when I read this that we were crossing somebody else's property, but this really isn't, right?
So the only place where we're crossing property is here in the Dollarama case. These are already easements that are there. As well as right here in the water main case, that it is connecting to underneath the parking lot, but it was already established. So it wasn't established for the hotel, and that's why, and the lots have been severed since, so that's why we're reestablishing the correct water main and force mains in the correct place where they are today.
Okay. Have we had anybody complain?
No, so this was a term and condition of the sale between the property owner that developed Dollarama and the hotel site. The hotel site submitted the applications. All of the neighboring properties are aware. We had Canadian Tire reach out today. They said if they had any issues, they'd let us know before the meeting, which they didn't. McDonald's is aware. So no, I don't think we've had any public comments submitted before today's meeting.
We had one email, but after we responded to him, he said that he had no concerns at this time, so.
Okay.
I have some concerns.
Question?
Yes, I have a question. Now, on 1051 Mackenzie, I'm at the last of the gate. Are you taking down the bush too? You're cutting all that down?
So,
That's where the hotel is going to be?
so today we're just talking about the easements in terms of the hotel development and those types of things. That's been previously.
Maybe I'm very stupid, but I'm just trying to speak for myself. I have, my husband passed and I'm just trying to look out for my own self and my property. Now, if the hotel goes into the bush, are you cutting that bush down? And if so, if there's a parking lot and a hotel there, are we gonna have a privacy fence put down so maybe all the people from the hotel don't come over onto your property or dogs and stuff like this? So we have some kind of privacy like the dollar store, the neighbors
So,
that we have.
excuse me, today we're talking about the easements, but if you have another concern, I'd ask that you,
I'm sorry, dear. but
That's okay.
I just thought this is
Yeah.
what we were discussing.
no, I'm sorry, we're just discussing the easements for the sewer mains. So if you have a concern about the hotel or some additional questions, you're welcome to email Matthew
I
Armstrong.
don't have computers, so.
Okay, or you're welcome to perhaps make an appointment to have a
Who do I
discussion.
Speak to.
Probably myself.
I want to know, how come I get water in my backyard? It's like a swamp, and in the summer, it's all spongy, so you can't get in there. Now, both sides of me is hill, and I'm in here, the valley. So that hotel or parking lot, wherever it is, am I gonna be, are they gonna build that up the ground?
So-
I'm in the same
I
situation.
need something done because I've lost a lot of garden things.
Okay, so after the meeting, we'll have a short discussion and perhaps we can arrange another time that you can speak to that issue, okay? Thank you. Anyone else about the easement?
Well, it wasn't clear.
It wasn't clear in the letter that you sent to the adjoining properties, what this meeting was for. They had down this easement for water and sewer and all that kind of stuff. You know, that's really
Yeah.
doesn't concern us.
Right,
We want to know because we're the adjacent property owners of this new hotel or motel or whatever is going up. And we have some issues
okay,
with some of the land that we would like to bring to your attention, that's
Okay.
all.
yeah. I appreciate your concerns about the property. However, today we're only addressing the easement issues, but we can, talk about it after the meeting, organize a time that you can have your questions answered. Okay?
Why are we here?
You were sent a letter by the town with regards to the motion, right, for the easements? And so it was
We're not getting answers, really.
we're not here to discuss that. Okay?
Also, you understand if you didn't come, you wouldn't have anything to say.
If you were speaking to this motion, this recommendation, certainly
So with the
answer those
waterway,
questions.
am I involved with that? So I don't get water in my yard?
So this has to do with the sewer, so the placement underground.
Well, it smells like a sewer in the spring and summer.
Do you have a question for Matthew with regards to the easement?
Pardon me?
Do you have a question for Matthew with regards to the easement? To the recommendation that's being placed?
I can't hear you, sorry.
Do you have any questions for Matthew?
Who's Matthew?
Matthew Armstrong is the,
Hello, Matthew, I'm Betty. No, I'm just worried about the water in my backyard.
Yeah.
And when the hotel, I'm sure they're gonna build that up. The
So,
ground.
so I'll be.
Here I am, but the ground up here and the ground up here.
Okay. So I'd be more than happy to kind of set up a separate meeting with all of you to be able to explain exactly what's been approved for the hotel and exactly what their plans are. So I can allay the fears. There will be a privacy fence similar to what you see at Dollarama. They have done their stormwater management work, which has been peer reviewed by our engineers. And so that there isn't water going to adjacent properties, that sort of things. But I can certainly explain that more and I can go through the report with you.
That'd be very helpful.
Okay, so if we have your names and if you can either give your telephone or that sort of thing, then I'd be more than happy to follow up with you later this week, or sorry, next week.
Thank you for your kindness.
Absolutely.
thank you, Matthew. So I'll now call the question. If there isn't any other further discussion, all in favor? Motion is carried. All right, moving on to item 5.2 is a recommendation that the Committee of Adjustment approve the consolidation of Plan 19, Block 9, part lots B and C, and Plan 19, Block 9, part lot A, RP 15R10, and 112, parts 1 and 2, subject to ease into one lot. Do I have a mover and a seconder for discussion purposes? Right? Daniel? Matthew Armstrong, CAO Treasurer, will speak to the report. Mr. Armstrong.
So just before I start, for people in the audience, if you're please feel free to leave if we're past your issue and you don't want to sit through the rest of the meeting. We will not be offended because we know this can be boring and tense. We're probably going to be at least another half hour, 45 minutes.
So do we give you our? Yes.
So I think I have your names right here, and as long as I have a phone number, that would be fantastic.
Thank you, the phone numbers. Where?
Not a problem.
That or that easement thing.
It was confusing, yes, but he explained it well. Now I understand it.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, okay, you're going to go across somebody else's property.
Is that it?
Oh, I'm three, yeah.
That's already done.
Thank you. I hope you think I was rude.
No, not a problem.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a good evening.
340 at Delta.
And you're Ken?
What?
You're Ken?
Yeah, Canada Road.
Perfect, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So this application that you see before you this evening is technical in nature. We're dealing with Northern Cables on 799 Susan Street. And then they own an adjacent lot on Eliza that runs along the CN rail tracks to Eliza Street itself. So both lots are owned by Northern Cables, and if so desired, they could request MPAC to just combine them, or they can go through a consent process to have the two combined. What they're trying to achieve by combining them is development of that lot to put a coverall on it. And to date, I don't believe we received any comments with regards to that. So the two kind of go part and parcel. This report and the next one. So the intention is to combine the lots, then place a coverall on the Eliza Street lot, requiring a minor variance to the front yard setback. That I can deal with in the next report, or I can answer any questions There it is, if there are any more of them now. We also have representatives from Northern Cables here today, if there's any questions for them as well. And just to check with you, are you for the next report or this report?
We're not for this report.
Okay. Very good. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Sorry. My question concerns the, if they weren't joined, would the setbacks be affected? Is that why we're putting them in as one, or?
If I may, it wouldn't change the actual front yard setback, but it would change how much they'd have to build on it, because technically they could sell the second parcel separate.
Yeah.
The coverall would have to have all sorts of stuff that they don't need to put in it, like hydro and bathrooms and everything else. By combining it, they can then use the bathrooms that are already on the other lot. And the reality is, I don't think they have any intention of ever trying to sell one without the other, so. Yeah, so it just makes it much easier from the building. Yeah, the logic is to the building.
Yeah.
More the building than anything else.
It becomes an accessory use to the main lot as opposed to a building in and of itself.
Right.
Daniel? Sorry, Jim.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question for you, Matthew. How are these lots separated? Was it a previous consent or are they in different ownership right now?
They're under same ownership, just one has a period and one doesn't. And so when MPEC looks at that, it has to be the exact same spelling or they don't consolidate. Otherwise, if the exact same spelling, exact same address, they automatically consolidate.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Craig?
this coverall, is it just a roof and supports, or is it walls and everything else?
Go ahead if you want.
Todd Stafford from Northern Cables. It's a fabric dome.
Oh, okay.
We actually had it installed in another factory, and then for expansion purposes, we have it available, so we'd like to move it to that lot. So,
It'll help with storage there quite a bit for you. So.
yes, but it'll give us room to
Move.
move some stuff on the plant and we can add some machines.
Yeah, so there'll be large blocks underneath it. And then it sits on top and it's engineered.
I've seen them, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And we've had no complaints from neighbors?
Louis, do you have any questions or no?
No, I'm all for private business anyways. Good to see that you guys probably want to get your stuff out, get up your shop and get moving, right?
Daniel? Good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. All right. I'll now call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Moving on to item 5.3 is a recommendation that the Committee of Adjustment approve the minor variance 2023-004 for 799 Susan Street with the following conditions. The balance, if any, of outstanding taxes, including penalties and interest, shall be paid to the town of Prescott, and that approval of the minor variance is granted and fixed to the general size, location, extent, and design of the proposed development as described in this report. Do I have a mover and a seconder for discussion purposes? Jim? Daniel? Thank you. Matthew Armstrong, CAO Treasurer, will speak to the report. Mr. Armstrong.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So in relation to the last report that we just talked about, we're talking about specifically the shaded area in the upper right-hand corner, which is where the coverall would go. So when they placed it out in terms of situating it on the lot, it would run from east to west in terms of its length, and each one of the provisions of the zoning bylaw for that particular lot is met with the exception of the front yard setback. And to make sure that we had the appropriate setback from the railroad right of way, then moving it slightly towards the front of the lot and providing for 8.18 meters as opposed to 12 meters is the minor variance being sought. We didn't have any comments from the public and the neighbors. It was posted as well as the letters were sent out. And when we went through the various questions as to is this minor, certainly our official plan speaks to Hyde and Wood Street being currently an industrial area. and seeing that those properties can be continued to be expanded, altered, that sort of things for those purposes. And this fits well within that as an additional use for that lot. Then when we took a look at it from the zoning bylaw perspective, it's the purpose of the main building and the accessory building is for light industrial. And so it fits within the zoning bylaw. Is it minor in nature? And feel the difference of 3.8 meters, which is about 12 feet, is minor in nature in that we're providing the maximum or the appropriate distance from the railway right of way, and then just moving it slightly more towards the road or the street side. So again, it provides noise buffering for those neighbors. The neighbors haven't complained. I believe we can speak that Northern Cable is very good at addressing their neighbor concerns and anytime they're brought up. And so we appreciate their due diligence in doing that. And I think that speaks to the fact that we didn't receive any comments in relation to this application. And then is it an appropriate development for the land? So the land is mostly scrub brush, that sort of thing. And being able to remove some of that storage and not put it out into the elements and the weather, and actually having it into an enclosed storage space is a good use for it. And so we concluded that it was minor in nature and recommend that it be approved.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. Is there any discussion on item 5.2?
The neighbors haven't complained, and if I'm right, it's off of Eliza Street that we're.
That's correct. So it's the only lot on the north side of Eliza.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anything else? No? I'll now call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. And moving on to item 5.3 is a recommendation that the Committee of Adjustment approve the minor variance 2023-004, 799 Susan Street with the following conditions. Balance, if any, of outstanding taxes, including penalties and interest, shall be paid to the town of Prescott, and that the approval of the minor variance is granted and fixed to the general size, location, extent, and design. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
We're on item 5.4.
Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. Sorry, but I thought it sounded familiar.
We got lost on that one.
Yeah, they all sound the same after a while, that's for sure. Okay, sorry, item 5.4 is a recommendation that the Committee of Adjustment approve minor variance 2023-05 for 663 Dibble Street West with the following conditions. That the balance, if any, of the outstanding taxes, including penalties and interest, shall be paid to the town of Prescott. And that the new addition lacking spatial separation shall be constructed of non-combustible construction. That the east wall of the new addition construction shall have no unprotected glazed openings, windows. And that the footings for the addition be pinned by a surveyor and confirmed to not exceed beyond the east property line. Do I have a mover and a seconder for discussion purposes? Daniel and Craig, thank you. And Sean Merriman, Manager Building and Bylaw, will speak to the report. Mr. Merriman.
Through you, Madam Chair. So the subject property is on the south side of Dibble Street West and the intersections of, I always get it wrong, Sophia and Dan Street. I want to call it Sophia, I don't know why. It has been a long time site of a single family dwelling in Prescott, and from the day that it was built, it had a 0 meter setback to the land east of the site. The legal description, of course, is Plan 19 and Block 3, Lot 51, and we received this application on July 7th, 2023. It was circulated to all the departments within the town because the 0 lot line is something that we always want to make sure that we take a look at first through the town. And there was no concerns brought back from the various departments in the town. In addition, the property was posted and all the landowners and or tenants within 60 meters of the property were notified within the 10 days of the meeting being held. So I will say this, the owner and the designer of this has recognized the limits of the property to easily, because they're trying to add a main floor bathroom and laundry so that it doesn't have to be all up on the upper floor in the crawl space. However, mitigation measures should be considered as the addition has fire safety implications. So the small addition is going on the northeast side of the home and it'll come up right to the property line. The overall use is not changing and the only relevant zoning requirement that could not be met was for the interior side yard setback of 2.4 meters or basically 8 feet. So the request is to match the existing setback that's on the existing house already of a 0 setback. So when we go through the official plan and the zoning review, the subject property is residential land use and it has a zoning of R1 or low density. This, of course, permits a whole various different things in the low residential end, including, single, semis, duplexes, and stuff like that. And the whole purpose of it is to meet all the needs for ages, incomes, and life circumstances in an R1 zone. So the official plan supports intensification and affordability within the residential zones where it'll complement the existing pattern and scale of development. So this new development or this small addition really works well with the residential character that's already down there, or what I like to call the as-built. So when you take a look at the, you'll notice all the houses down there have similar constraints and or issues when you're looking at it. And then we also consider its contribution to the maintenance and achievement of balance of housing types. So anything we can do to keep a single family home still a single family home is always a good thing. So again, as has been mentioned before, there are 4 tests. Is the application minor in nature? Is it desirable? And is it keeping with the general intent of the zoning and the official plan? So as I said, this whole area of Dibble Street is kind of unique. Just about every house on that block is set to the east instead of in the center of each block. Not to mention the designer has moved the new construction to the side of the house, which will not bring the structure into less compliance. So it's not any worse than what it was. And it still meets with the established building line and at the same time match the maximum interior side yard that is on the other side so that they can still have enough room to get through on the other side. As such, staff concludes that the relief being sought in this request is minor in nature. Appropriateness, again, it meets what's already there. It meets kind of the look and feel of that house already because there's kind of a chunk there and there'll still be a chunk there. There'll just be a small addition onto the front of it. And so we feel that it meets the intended goal of residential use and enjoyment of the residential use in that part of town. So again, the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, we feel that it reaches that because it meets the historical use, which is that it be low rate residential. And of course it meets the official plan because again, it's still just residential low rate. So based on that analysis, staff concluded that the relief being sought for the new small addition of 14.4 square meters or 155 square feet is minor in nature, appropriate and desirable, and meets the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw and the official plan. And the request is that that the committee approve it with the conditions that were placed. And I do believe these fine people are here for this this application.
Did you want to speak to the item? Do you have anything that you want to speak to? Okay. Is there any discussion on item 5.4? Daniel?
I look at the picture and so it's going to come forward towards the street.
Correct.
Okay. And how does, I know it's historically set there, but, and I have a similar building next to me. How is the discussion with the neighbor, or is there any discussion to be had
The person was notified and they have not reached out to us, and I was under the impression from the applicants that they spoke to the neighbor before bringing it forward to us.
Before the application, I'm sure he's okay with it, and we just had a discussion with him
Right.
a few days ago, and he says, go ahead and do whatever you need to do.
So, and the building is finished on the exterior, how, is it clapboard or right now?
Well, it's brick right now. In fact, if you go down to the very bottom, I believe I put a picture in, yeah, right there.
Yeah.
It's brick. The new addition has yet to be decided, but it will be non-combustible. There's various different ways that they can do that. But that, until it's approved, they haven't submitted building plans. So
Yeah, it just said, it looked like clapboard to me. Okay, brick, I see.
yeah, it's brick.
Yeah.
Sorry if I may, Chair, just, so that red house that we're looking at there now, we're looking at brick?
Yeah. Oh, clapboard, sorry.
I was going to say, when I was there this morning,
I have another
Yeah.
question if I may, Chair. Is the addition going to be 2 stories as well? Or is it gonna be
Just one story.
one story?
So then if the whole building is clapboard, why enforce brick on one little section?
It won't be enforced brick, it'll be enforced non-combustible. And there's various different ways to get to non-combustible, including placing drywall behind the clapboard.
Okay.
Like I said, they could do brick, but like I said.
I'm only thinking of trying to.
Yeah, but the concept is never to make it any worse. We can't change what's already there, but we don't want to make it any worse and create a bigger fire hazard. So that's why it's got to be non-combustible for the new addition.
Got it.
You'll just have to move your gas meter,
It's gonna be before the.
probably right before setback. Yeah, that's the only thing I thought about was probably have a zero clearance diaphragm for the exhaust, but you don't have a window there, so.
Right.
so just for clarity, when you say the zero lot line, are you talking about the wall of the structure, or are you talking about the overhang from the roof?
Well, it's always measured from the wall of the building. And like I said, the concept's to make sure it doesn't go over, so.
I got the same thing next to me.
Any other discussion? No. I'll now call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried.
Fun.
All right, on to new business. Does anyone have any new business they would like to speak to? No? Okay.
Other than the comment I made about the pictures, it's a little hard to figure out when you're.
Right. Okay. And is there any media present? Nope, no media. So item number 8 is adjournment. And I have a recommendation that the Committee of Adjustment meeting be adjourned. And the time is 5:37 PM. Do I have a mover and a seconder?
So moved.
All right, thank you. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you.